we are going to be looking at the improved audit trial and export feature and how it helps our customers to maintain system health by offloading non-operational data to customer data lake. One of the biggest causes of outage is the fact that the database gets too large and customers are asked to run a series of purge scripts on a regular basis, which requires a change window, and this is a manual process to maintain system health instead of automatic. BAM admins can simply customize the audit data retention period to maintain database or disk size and offload the data to Splunk or HTTP endpoints for future audits and compliance requirements. As you can see in this architecture diagram, the audit trial feature uses PSM client and a vector log service in the backend to capture and provide visibility into the audit trial data. There's a new table created in the BAM database called Audit Queue, which is populated with the audit data if the feature is enabled to capture events and session triggers. A relay agent regularly takes rows from this table and passes them to a vector service running on BAM. Once the relay agent gets confirmation that the rows have been received by the vector service, those rows are removed from the audit queue table to maintain the DB size. And all rows added to the audit queue table are also added to a rotating log file on BAM local directory for troubleshooting purpose. For audit trial, there are three sinks used here. One for local storage in BAM for troubleshooting purpose, and two other sinks are used to send data events to remote servers like Splunk or HTTP. And another thing to note here is like we added two new APIs. One is configure audit log export, and the second one is like get audit log export status. Let's look at the audit trial and export feature in action. First, we'll configure the audit data export and retention through UI and data output and Splunk. And then we will take a look on how to configure it using API and HTTP output. For this demo, I've configured one BAM and two BDDS server. Also, I have Splunk and HTTP server and a Postman client for API demo. Okay, let's log into BAM first. And we need to go to administration. And under data management, you will see audit data settings. Here you can see two options, one audit data export and audit data retention. Let's look at audit data export and how to configure it. Okay, here you need to click enable audit data export, and the output option is Splunk. I've already configured the Splunk server here, and as you can see, that's my IP, and yep, it's matching. Now we need to check the data inputs, and under data inputs you will see a HTTP event collector, just to make sure the token values is matching. Go to global settings to verify the port number. Okay, now let's get back to audit data export configuration. Okay, the port number is verified. Let's verify the token here. And I'm going to use TLS option and upload a certificate. For demo purpose, I'm going to upload it again. This is a certificate I generated from Splunk server. And let's go ahead and update. This is done, and let's go ahead and configure audit data retention. Here you can set the retention period or retain indefinitely for administrative session and event history, and you can configure do not retain for DHCP and DDNS transaction history. The only condition here is like session history retention must be higher or same as other retention settings. So as you can see the error here, it should be greater than that. Okay, now update. Okay, that is done. Okay, now let's go ahead and generate some events. I'm logging out here, logging in. Okay, let's go to Splunk and see whether we got that information here. Okay, looks like it's generated, and as you can see, the first one is session history. Just logged in, username admin, and if you expand that information, you can see that the operation is login. Let's log out, and the data retention, the config we set, the update. And the next thing is like we'll go ahead and try to enable the service using API. Looks like all data is captured here. Let me disable the service in the backend so that we can enable it using API. Okay, as I said, it's not enabled now. And let's try with the HTTP as an output instead of Splunk. And here I have three APIs pre-configured. One is authorization to get the authorization token from my BAM. And the other two is like status and the config, the server config. Okay, copy that value here and just take the status first. It says false, that means it's not enabled. Okay, and you can see the status here on the left hand side. Okay, now let's go ahead and configure it. To configure, we need to change it to true, and that's my HTTP endpoint IP address, and port is 9000. And first thing is we need to make sure the authorization token is copied here. Okay, we got the result, and that's the message. Now let's go ahead and check the status here. Okay, as you can see, it's enabled, and you can check the status on the API side as well. Okay, it says true, which means like it's enabled now. Let's go ahead and check the output on HTTP endpoint. And prior to that, I would like to show there's a limitation with vector service, which we need to disable the service in order to update any fields. So here I am trying to update the port number, and it says like reconfigure not allowed until you disable the service. Okay, I'm going to disable it. Okay, got the status, and let's check. Okay, it's disabled, as you can see. It will update again. Change it to true, then click send. Okay, let's go ahead and check the output on HTTP endpoint. And I've already logged into this HTTP endpoint, and let's check the output here. Here you can see the session, logout, and yep, there's an update we made. It looks like it's captured all the events and sessions. And that's how we configure Audit data export using API and HTTP as an output.